623, 28 November 2020. I thought that was really important because this addresses Beijing's marching orders to Joe Biden. And remember the sword that they have hanging over the Biden family. It's everything having to do with Hunter and all the Biden dealings with China. That the mainstream media chose to bury. You know, I read something recently, or heard something recently that said that 17% of everybody who voted say that if they had known some of the things that I knew, that a lot of other people knew, but I guess because I don't listen to mainstream media, I don't pay attention to that nonsense, that would have affected their voting decisions. They did a really good job at burying things. Google, the executives at Google actually said that they were going to basically control the this election right after Trump won in 2016. So, and they sure as hell did. Anyway, that said, from the Globe Daily, actually this is from PJ Media. From PJ Media we have this. The Globe Daily is a known outlet for Chinese Communist Party propaganda. It's owned by the People's Daily in Beijing, which is literally an official outlet for the Central Committee. The math isn't hard to do. Isn't difficult. An op-ed in the Globe Daily welcomes Joe Biden to the White House, supposing events stay on their current course, with both stern denunciations of Donald Trump and admonitions to not do what Trump did. This is from the Globe Daily. Facing a voracious round of assault from the coronavirus and an economy in doldrums because of the health crisis, the incoming U.S. administration of Joe Biden has hoped to chart a new course of policy interventions categorically different from the inertia displayed by Donald Trump's team. Yeah, from PJ Media. The U.S. economy under Trump was the best in living memory, hardly inertia, as the CCP paper describes it. I'm sorry I get CCP often confused with NPR. So, the Ministry, from the Globe Daily, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of China has congratulated Biden and his running mate Kamala Harris for winning the U.S. general election, which is widely seen as extending an olive branch to the incoming Biden administration in the backdrop of the worn-out confrontations between the two countries that were caused by Trump's protracted trade war. So you won't hear too many Democrats argue with this formulation. China spent years taking advantage of its quote-unquote developing nation status to develop right into becoming the world's second largest and fastest growing economy. Thousands of U.S. manufacturing jobs moved to China during that time. But the left uttered hardly a peep about that. The left, which has supposedly always been about, the workers, taking care of the working class. Yeah, well, the people who did that, they took care of lining their own pockets. That's who did that. At the expense of the working class of the United States. Everything was Trump's fault. From before, when he was president, to long after. It's the same script Democrats ran against Bush 43. They and China will run it again. What will the U.S. media do? Well, they've been accepting millions from China while pretending that Russia is the greater threat to the U.S. Russia's economy is the 7th largest in the world at about 1.6 trillion, a bit smaller than the economy of Texas. China's economy is the 2nd largest in the world at about 14.14 trillion, almost 3 times larger than Japan's economy, which is number 3. China is far more technologically advanced than Russia, has about 10 times Russia's population, and has an actual plan for usurping the United States as the world's economic and military power. China has thousands of tech spies on its payroll all over the US and has spent a couple of $1 trillion building the network over the past 12 years. It was only exposed in 2019. But yeah, sure, Russia's the greater threat. Perhaps this explains the disparity in media attention the two get in the US. From the Globe Daily, overall, China Daily spent more than $4.4 million in printing, distribution, advertising, and administration expenses over the past 6 months, according to the FARA filing. China Daily, which is controlled by the Chinese Communist Party's State Council Information Office, its propaganda agency, has for years paid newspapers and magazines in the US and other Western countries to publish advertorials, interesting, designed to look like legitimate news articles. So back to Biden's marching orders. To control the COVID-19 pandemic in the US and other parts of the world, China and the US, the world's two dominant economic powers, should put down their acrimonies and start earnest collaborations and goodwill. Demonizing China or slinging dirt on Chinese people will never help to stop the flare-up of infections and fatalities in America. If the two nations could have aligned in this research and development of effective virus medications and vaccines, proliferated life-saving medical equipment, and kept open vital supply chains in the past months, instead of the opposite, many lives in the US and elsewhere would have been saved. That would have been fantastic, but was not possible because China covered up the outbreak in those early critical days. While Trump was taking decisive action such as banning travel to the US from China, Biden denounced him as a xenophobe. So, back to the Chinese propaganda. It is imperative to reinstall an effective federal leadership in the US that knows how to cope with severe crisis of this magnitude. China's experiences are impressive in curtailing the pandemic, and China's unparalleled ability in manufacturing PPEs, maybe manufacturing pandemics, and producing vaccine vials and freezers should not be neglected and could be made use of by the Biden government. So, China hoarded PPE when the world needed it most. The United States is well ahead in the race for working, safe vaccines thanks to Operation Warp Speed, which began long before November 3, 2020. Back to the Chinese Daily. As to the policies of his new administration, the world pins high hopes on him, tossing out the old-fashioned and selfish America First doctrine. You know who wants the United States to throw out the America First doctrine? Former General Mattis. So, Democrats have never been America First since I can remember. The Chinese government has just said, throw out the America First doctrine. Former General Mattis says, throw out the America First doctrine. Restoring multilateralism and cooperation with the whole world, particularly stopping reckless and brutal ideological and economic fight between US and China, which many have likened to a new Cold War. That's China's central instruction to Biden. And it's one the Democrat is sure to follow through on. America-centric foreign policy and economic policy will die with Biden in the White House. He'll prioritize just about everything over American interests, security, and jobs. Let's see. Obama was America last. I don't believe Bush was ever America first. Neither was Clinton. Neither was George the First. I'm not sure about Reagan's policies. But at least from, I know sure as hell Carter wasn't. Ford was in for a brief period of time. Under Nixon, we gave up. Under Nixon, we betrayed the people of South Vietnam. Absolutely turned our backs on the people of South Vietnam. That should be a black mark of utter shame in the history of the United States. But it's doubtful our educational system will ever put it quite that way. But that's exactly what it was. So, to continue. That's China's central instruction to Biden. It's one the Democrat is sure to follow through on. America-centric foreign policy and economic policy will die with Biden in the White House. He'll prioritize just about everything over American national interest, security, and jobs. Watch. Just watch his policies. Watch his NASA policies. Watch his military policies. Yeah, the NASA policies like under Obama. Really? NASA? Yeah, if you don't know what the hell I'm talking about, look it up. NASA instruction or policies under Obama. Now, from China. Now, a flurry of U.S. multinational companies have vehemently opposed Trump's so-called economic decoupling attempt, as they know perfectly well they could not find another giant and growing market like China. So, the incoming Biden administration needs to ponder its new policies to reverse the course of the tumultuous policies of the past 4 years, trumpeted by Trump. China moved its dangerous point of failure. China proved it's a dangerous point of failure in the world economy. Decoupling wasn't just Trump's policies. Many other countries, including Japan and South Korea, independently arrived at the conclusion that they needed to divest away from China to protect themselves. The fact that China, not Russia, is currently engaged in what amounts to slave labor, which the NBA and the NFL and whomever else heartily approves of, at its Uyghur concentration camps provided additional motivation to decouple from China. Or it should. While the left slams America for the past sin of slavery, what do they say about China's present engagement in the same? Watch Biden and most of the U.S. media pretend none of this is true, and that it's time to cozy up to Xi's China. This is from Breitbart and Ed Driscoll for the Xi's Gotta Have It title. So, there you go. Biden's marching orders. Same as the Democrats. Abandon the United States again. Still, ever continuing since at least the 60s, 70s, with China opening up under Nixon. I mean, there's trade, and then there's absolutely subversion of the U.S. economy. And worse yet, having this article come out within about a week of Mattis saying exactly the same thing, abandon the America First policy. You never know it's bad when that kind of betrayal rears its poisonous, ugly head. Because that's what it is. It's a pure betrayal. Sick 2 3 out.